What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with the one and only Todd La Torre. Thank you so much for your time today. It's great to be able to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. It's fair to say you've been fairly busy this year because, we got the Rejoice in the Suffering album, the solo album. I really want to know, like, what the thought process was like going into this. Were you going into this with a different frame of mind than what you would normally do with Queensryche? Was this more or less kind of like stepping into uncharted territory? How did Rejoice in the Suffering sort of see the light of day?
I mean, this is the kind of music that I like to write. So it's not uncharted waters for me. Um, I think, for the people out there that only have heard me really kind of sing with Queensryche, yeah, that was probably a surprise to hear what I did on the record. But for me, this is like what I've always done and enjoyed my whole life. Um, and I definitely, did not want to try to write or sound anything like what Queensryche does. Like there was nothing contrived. This is just the stuff Craig and I like to write together. But I know some people were wondering, is it going to sound like Queensryche? And I thought, why would I do that? I'm already in that band. That's the best band for that sound. Why would I try to replicate? That's just doesn't make sense to me. So, this was an opportunity to do things vocally and drumming wise, and just the whole record was a great opportunity to get away from that sound and do something heavier and more just free range to do whatever I want musically with my voice. Craig and I self-produced it, so I didn't have a producer saying, oh, cut this chorus in half, don't do this, do that. It was like, I want to do just anything and everything I want to do the way that I want to do it. Um, so yeah, it was just a great creative outlet to express some other styles of metal that have always been influential to me.
Do you think also lyrically that maybe you were expressing different aspects as well? Like being that this is like, every time I think of an artist putting out a solo album, like I also think that it's not just, their music, but I feel like it allows for them to be more personal and it allows for them to maybe express sides of themselves that maybe not so much like a 5 or 4 piece collaboration would be. So could like maybe people get a good feeling of who you personally are with this album as well?
Well, I'm pretty opinionated, and I stand on my own convictions, and I will go toe to toe on the issues that I'm passionate about. So there are things that I like to lyrically say things that are not quite so literal. They're a little more ambiguous, in Queensryche especially, because what I have other people attached to my mouth when I say things. With my own stuff, I can say whatever I want. Yeah, I'm still the singer in Queensryche, and I might touch on some topics that are a little more thought provoking or taboo or against the grain or controversial or whatever. But I still try to do it in an artistic way. Um, but Queensryche's pretty. I say fuck a couple times on my record, but so we did Propaganda Fashion on the Verdict, and Eddie wrote that song, and he says the word fuck in it. I said, oh, I guess we get to put the explicit lyrics warning on the front cover now. And it wasn't so different than lyrically maybe how I would say things, but certainly there is a line that I probably went past on my own stuff that maybe I wouldn't do in Queensryche,
Mm-hmm.
particularly dealing with religion and dogma and things like that, where I'm very critical of certain things. But it's my record. I can say and do whatever I want, and people hopefully can distinguish the two, and also separate an individual from an ideal or an entity. If I criticize a religion or the dogma of a religion. I'm not criticizing you if you are claiming to be of a particular faith, but a lot of people personalize all those things and say, no, I'm criticizing ideas. I'm not criticizing you per se. Now, if you subscribe to those ideas, well, then if the shoe fits, wear it.
Mhm.
But, you know, you should own that just like I am. So yeah, it was fun to be able to just express what I want, how I want, and without anybody telling me I can't do something.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of being an artist, is creating whatever you want.
Yeah, and you know, no artist, and I don't care if you're a singer, if you're a painter, or if you're a guitarist, no artist should ever be held accountable or ever be responsible. Now, yeah, granted, there is artistic responsibility that you know, you do connect with people, and you know, you want to, you know, portray yourself, you know, you want to help be the foundation of ideas to make the world a better place. But at the same time, you can't be held responsible for people's misinterpretations. That's just, you know, that's you just can't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's well said. And a lot of people will misinterpret. I remember when we did the video for the last record called Blood of the Levant, and it was dealing with the Arab Spring and what set off the war in Syria. And I remember somebody commenting on the YouTube video like, this is fucked up, you know, is that them criticizing our military? Because there were like guys with guns and like military looking outfits. And I'm like, wow, dude, you're not even paying attention to any of this. This has nothing to do with the United States at all. And so, yeah, there's that knee-jerk reaction like, oh, he's criticizing, you know, he's not a patriot, he's a fucking commie, libtard, socialist. Whoa. Slow your roll, man. Learn the story. Yeah. Get educated on something. And some people are like, wow, I had no idea that this started because these kids spray painted on a wall and they were beaten and killed and tortured, and the whole peace offering and then shooting at innocent people and blah, blah, blah. You know, if it gets people to go, I had no idea how that started, I didn't know, and then they start to dig a little deeper, maybe the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is, that person won't be like, yeah, fuck those refugees. It'll be like, wow, they didn't want to flee their place, but they're getting bombed. Like, you know, when people say, well, you know, if they love their place so much, why are they coming here? Or why are they going there? Well, they can't. I mean, when you're being air raided and bombed by various groups and your own government, and, you know, it's much deeper. But yeah, I can't be held responsible for somebody's misinterpretation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And having all these lyrical concepts and stuff, obviously, you know, like, it influences the lyrics. Do you think of these concepts and maybe or think of these lyrical ideas and maybe that could help influence the music itself, or have you always needed music first to come up with like a lyrical idea?
No, I mean, a lot of times I will listen to a piece of music and then just, how does that make me feel? What do I feel? Do I feel sad and melancholic and empty inside? Do I feel angry and rebellious and, you know, that kind of feeling? And so a lot of times the music, the feeling that music gives me, I'll be like, okay, this is making me feel like this. And then I brainstorm ideas and then I'll come up with a topic based on how that music makes me feel. But there are certainly times where I'll have lyrics with no music, and I'll even have a vocal melody. I grab my cell phone all the time, and I'll be like, chorus idea for a song that doesn't exist. And I'll literally say that, and I'll go, da, 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 and I'll hum it just like that. And then maybe that's maybe it becomes a guitar thing, or that's a chord progression. You know, it can morph into a million things. Or I just made that up on the fly.
Yeah.
So that's how those ideas come to be. It's many different ways, but typically I'll hear the music, it creates a feeling in me, and then I'll write about whatever that feeling happens to be.
Have you ever had the best lyrics ever, but then they're always like one syllable over like every arrangement?
Yes. Yeah. So you got to learn like the Howard Jones approach. What is love anyway? So you can take love and make it, a gazillion syllables. But yeah, there's times where it's like, okay, I've written this poem type thing. It flows so great in this context. Wow, this concept goes with this music, but it's way too wordy. Shit. How do I say the same thing with half the amount of words and still drive home the point and be mindful of the words that emphasize that feeling? And I always go back to words like cut or sharp, or, there's a certain, cut is very harsh and sharp, and the sound of that is what it is. And it's not like soft and fluffy and pillowy, and it's got a certain sound to it. So it's like, yeah, if there's a word that emphasizes that feeling and it's the perfect word to say what I want to say, your best friend is the website Rhyme Zone, because I use it all the time, and I'll be like, okay, what's a synonym for this? Okay, here's a bunch of different synonyms. Okay, no, that starts with an A. I need something that's k, ch, t. I need those harsh sounds. And then I'll go through things and I'll be like, okay, stop. Let me move this down here. And so, yeah, there is those times where it's like, this is so perfect, but damn it, it is that one syllable. Okay, is there an article before this word that I can shorten? No, that changes the phrasing here because I need the next word to land on the downbeat. It can be tricky.
It definitely can. And for like this lyrical inspiration, because I feel like you take subject matters from many different sources, and also on the solo album, like I got many different vibes. Like I felt many different emotions behind it. Like it's not like I considered the album to be like an emotional roller coaster through multiple dimensions. Like I thought, Pretenders had a different vibe than a song like Critical Cynic, or a different vibe than Vexed, or like Apology, ending with Apology, that 6-minute song. Like it seems like there was many different vibes. Like, do you almost like look for the inspiration? Do you like do research to find this inspiration, or do sometimes ideas or emotions just strike you when you least expect it?
Yeah, the second one, they just strike me when I least, when I'm not anticipating it. Sometimes it's tough to come up with another topic. Like, okay, what do I want to write about this time? And so there's only so many things you can talk about. So you say, okay, instead of talking about that in a first person perspective, maybe I will be like, okay, maybe it's a child looking through the lens of a child with very minimal real world experience, and how would a kid see this? And so it kind of blurs some of those very poignant, important points that you want to make, but maybe it becomes a little more abstract because a child is trying to make sense of all this stuff around them. Or I wrote the song Vanguards of the Dawn Wall about rock climbing. That was written, I remember watching the documentary Free Solo with Alex Honnold, which is amazing. If you haven't seen it, you should totally watch it. And then it's one of the best documentaries you'll ever see. This guy free solo climbs, El Capitan at the Yosemite National Park with no ropes or harnesses, and he's a couple thousand feet in the air with his fingers in a little crevice, and there's no it's just mind blowing. And then I went down this rabbit hole of these extreme rock climbers, and so I was like, I'm gonna write about this, like the spirit of climbing, and like, holy shit, this is like, something in their brain is different from mine, or different from the next guy, for example. where the pleasure centers in their brain it takes way more for them to feel excitement. So they do things that other people would be like, that's crazy. But to them, that's what it takes for them to feel, that rush or that sense of pleasure. So yeah, there were some oddball topics that I wrote about, and that was one of them. Hellbound and Down is written about I always like to watch the show American Greed, and I'm always intrigued by the criminal mind, and particularly like very genius type scammers. I think it's awful what they do, but there is a brilliance to what they do at the same time. And so sometimes you'll have like a hacker that ends up working for the government to catch bad guys. And so it's how do you utilize those skills, that skill set, in a positive direction. But that song is about walking that fine line of between good and bad, and then taking it too far and going on the wrong side.
You should write a song about Bernie Madoff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but those kinds of characters, it's awful what they've done, scamming people out of their life savings and whatever. But I just finished watching Breaking Bad. Though I hadn't watched it. Everyone's like, "Have you seen Breaking Bad?" I was like, "No, I haven't watched it yet." And I finally went on this marathon of watching Breaking Bad, and it's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant. But you think of like, okay, here's this chemist who gets cancer and he can't, take care of his family, so he becomes like the best meth cook in the country's ever seen, and he's a chemist, so he starts making, he basically builds kind of an empire, and so there is that. He's kind of like MacGyver too. I mean, the guy creates bombs out of like normal shit, and it's really cool. But those are topics that you kind of go away from the mainstream of your geopolitical topics or your social injustices and the stuff that we see around us and on TV and whatever. Yeah. I try to go outside of that a little bit and come up with something that's fresh for my mind.
I recommend a documentary series. All the episodes are on YouTube too, called Situation Critical. If you want to watch let
me write it down. Hold on, I'm writing it down.
Yeah, they did one episode on the Blood Diamond crisis in Sierra Leone. Like if you want to watch
I love documentaries.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like it basically showcases the brilliance of humanity and like the best aspects of humanity colliding with the worst aspects of humanity, like the Russian theater hostage crisis from 2002. Like really interesting documentary. And there's also like people who were trapped at like the deepest part of a coal mine in Pennsylvania back, and like it was filled up with water and they were trapped under there for like 5 days, and like
wow. So, okay, I will definitely. I wrote it down. Situation Critical. I will definitely dig into that.
Yeah, it's a really, really fascinating story.
Yeah, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah,
and it's always good to, get into something new. And it's like, and right now we're in the middle of writing Queensryche music. So maybe I'm sure something will inspire me to go there.
Awesome. And I have 2 more questions for you. If that's cool. You ready for the most difficult question of the whole interview?
Yeah, let's do it.
How do you know when a song is done?
That's a good question, because it's like, when do you put the paintbrush down?
Yeah.
When do you who should be, and who is anyone to bang the gavel and say it's done, no more? I mean, I think some things, it's always better to keep people wanting more, right? So when you say, okay, we'll do you'll do another chorus, and you're like, is it really if it's not adding to the song and making it better, if it's just making it longer, to me, doesn't make it better. I think that you kind of know. I think you just kind of know. It's almost like when you're making a dish, like, okay, that tastes great. Could I add another little spice in there? Is it going to take away from the other flavors? Is it going to take away from is this necessary? Or is this just the perfect, it tastes like the perfect balance. I'm good. If I want to do more ingredients and something else, I'll create another dish and we'll introduce that. That would be another song. So I think it's hard to answer that question, but I think, when you hear the song and it feels like a complete thing and everything has been satisfied, it's good to like portion control,
Yeah. Ooh, that's a
when
good
you
album
listen to
title.
it,
That's a good album
portion
title.
control.
I love that.
Oh, I got to write that down.
Wow.
Okay.
That actually
You can
sounds.
have it.
Oh, thank you. Now I got to learn how to sing. But
But yeah, I think you just know when enough is enough and everything feels good. I kind of wished it went a little longer, but I like the fact that it didn't, and it makes me want more.
yeah.
I think that's when you know.
That was a really good answer, and thank you for not giving me the easy way out, saying, "Oh, when it's mixed," answer. So,
Fuck that. That just makes the song sound better. It doesn't do anything for the song itself.
yeah, exactly. And the final question I wanted to ask you is because again, Rejoice in the Suffering. What I loved about this album was because I loved the stuff you did with Queensryche. I loved The Verdict. I loved Condition Human. Great albums. And what I loved about Rejoice in the Suffering is that just when I thought I was getting to know you in Queensryche, just when I really thought I had a good idea of who the voice of Todd La Torre was, this really made me see sides of you that I haven't seen before, and it makes me really look forward to what you're doing next. Do you think that with, this essence of self-discovery in the solo album and maybe exploring in new territory lyrically and musically, could this allow you to bring in some new stuff to Queensryche for the future, or are you maybe going to try to keep a solo career in Queensryche two separate entities in a way?
Yeah, they need to remain separate, in my opinion. I think me introducing anything beyond what I've already, as far as like any gritty stuff or anything that I've already done on the records I've done with them, is the most that it should be. Or I think it's the most it should be, because I don't want to compromise. I mean, look, it's a new lineup. It's not the original lineup, and I don't want to be a carbon copy of what the past was. I want to have those elements that are definitely, those stylistic and tonal qualities and everything that people expect Queensryche to sound like. But I don't want to muddy the waters where now I'm changing that sound in a way where it's just not, it's not the Queensryche sound. So, and that was another benefit to doing my own record, was I don't feel like, okay, here's a part, I want to do this crazy vocal thing like I maybe did on my record. It doesn't make me feel like I need to force that on the band. And I never did before, but I certainly feel like, okay, all the more extreme stuff, like One by One is full gutturals. Like I would never introduce that into Queensryche. The gritty Halford style of vocal on Pretenders, for example, like I would never sing in a Queensryche song like that. So would it be appropriate? So I would definitely maintain that separation, because I just don't. And not only that, the music of Queensryche, in my opinion, just doesn't call for that type of vocal delivery. Mm-hmm. And so the reason why I delivered the way that I did on songs like Vanguards of the Dawn Wall or Dogmata or Pretenders or whatever is because that made me feel like that's the delivery that the song called for. Queensryche's music just doesn't sound like that, so I would never even be in that headspace to sing like that anyway. Thankfully, because if it was heavier music, kind of more along the lines of what I did, and the vocals were like Queensryche vocals, I would have a hard time not wanting to interject what I did on my record with the similar sounding style of music.
Yeah.
So yeah. Queensryche is special the way that it is, and I don't think it should deviate to that degree.
And you know what? Thank you for doing that. And again, I still think that like I really do I consider Condition Human to be one of my personal favorite Queensryche albums.
Wow.
Like that really
Thank you.
like that made me get more on board with it, and then made me look forward to the verdict. And I think Queensryche has a great thing going for it. And you clearly are very creative. You have all these different outlets and stuff. We can definitely look forward to more solo work in the future as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've got a few more songs already written. Uh, I'm a little torn because I don't know if the stuff that I've written is more along more melodic death, melodic black metal.
Ooh.
Um, and so I don't know if I want to do just a separate record that's just that, um, or do something more along the lines of what I've done on this record. Because a lot of people like this. I mean, a lot of people say, I don't hear anything coming out that sounds like your record. Usually it's more power metal, or if it's straight up thrash, you're not getting the singing that I'm doing. You're getting more of the screaming and a more of a typical thrash delivery, which I love, but it can get a little bit linear. So I think that diversity people really seem to be enjoying on the solo record. So yeah, I definitely will be putting out more solo material
And
at some point.
if you go black metal and freaking do a collaboration with like Mayhem or Dark Throne or Emperor, oh man, like a collaboration with you and Isan, we got to make that happen. Like,
That would be pretty awesome.
but thank you so much, Todd.
Yeah,
Everybody,
man.
we are here with Todd La Torre of Queensryche, and be sure to check out the brand new solo album "Rejoice in the Suffering," out now. Pick it up while supplies last forever. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.